Welcome to the sixth part of my Sonic CD US soundtrack theory. In my last part, I talked about how Metallic Madness Past fits in with the US soundtrack. For this part, I'm going to talk about how Palmtree Panic Past fits in with the US soundtrack, including the US Palmtree Panic tracks. Anyway, let's start going through the music track of Palmtree Panic Past and compare it to the overall soundtrack. The track starts with a flute melody that likely inspired the brass used in Palmtree Panic Present. There is also a piano harmony used throughout the track that possibly inspired the acoustic guitar in Palmtree Panic Present, titled Tempest Present, and the ending theme. This track uses a bass that could have inspired the bass used throughout the US Palmtree Panic tracks and the ending theme. Throughout this track, a bongo drum beat is used that likely inspired the drum beats used in the US Palmtree Panic tracks. The track after the flute melody would then go into a piano melody that could have inspired the vocals used in Palmtree Panic Bad Future. The piano would then turn into a violin melody that possibly inspired the synth-styled melodies used in Wacky Workbench Good Future and Stardust Speedway Present. There is also a chromatic melody that is used in this section that likely inspired the chromatic used in the opening theme and in Stardust Speedway Good Future. The track then goes into a section with a melody that uses the flute and piano from before. Now let's move on to comparing the US Palmtree Panic tracks to the past track, starting with the present theme. The track starts with a drum beat that leads to an acoustic guitar that is likely meant to be an arrangement of part of the piano harmony from the past track. The bass can also be heard that sounds like an arrangement of the bass within the first half of the past track. The track then transitions into the next section with a simple brass melody that might be based on the last few notes of the piano melody in the first half of Palmtree Panic Past. Then the track starts to use a brass melody that is likely meant to be an arrangement of the flute melody in the beginning of the past track. The track also starts to use a different transitional brass melody that might be based on part of the violin melody from the past track. The track would then go into a section with just the drum set. Then the track goes into using an acoustic guitar solo that is likely meant to be an arrangement of the melody within the last section of the past track. Lastly, the track goes into the same brass melody section but with added drums. Now let's move on to comparing Palmtree Panic Good Future to the past track. After starting with a drum beat, it uses a marimba melody that is likely meant to be an arrangement of the violin melody from the past track. The track uses a bass that sounds like the bass used in the same section the violin melody originally played in. The track then starts to use a vocal harmony that is possibly meant to be an arrangement of the piano harmony from the past track. The track also starts to use a brass melody that is meant to go with the marimba melody. Then the track goes into a section with just the drums and bass. Then it goes into a reprised version of the marimba melody. Interestingly, the album version of this track features an opening that is possibly meant to be based on the chromatic melody from the past track. Now let's move on to comparing Palmtree Panic Bad Future to the past track. The track starts with a longer drum section than the other tracks. Then the track uses a vocal melody that is likely meant to be an arrangement of the piano melody from the first half of Palmtree Panic Past. This section also uses a brass harmony that is possibly meant to be an arrangement of the piano harmony from the past track. The bass can also be heard that sounds like an arrangement of the bass within the first half of the past track. The track then goes into a section with just the drums. Then it goes into the same section from before. Interestingly, the album version of this track uses a marimba melody that could be an arrangement of the different last few notes used in the piano melody from the past track. And those were all the comparisons comparisons I have found between Palmtree Panic Past and the US soundtrack. Like I've said in the previous videos, I hope anyone who watches through this will share it around, and I now have one part left of this series, and anyway, I will see you in the next part.